Hey there, how is everyone doing today? This is Jacob Michaels back, or Jacob Smith, depending on how you know me and who you are. Back for another segment, a long overdue segment of Mystery Arts Inc. And today I'm really excited. We have one of my new good friends and one of my favorite authors here. I went ahead and thought I'd grab this and show this off. The chuckling like a schoolgirl. Just deduce it, and deduce it I have. What have I deduced? I've deduced that Ben Cardall's work is absolutely fantastic, and really happy to have him here today to ask him a few questions. Some that people post on the cafe, that people have asked me directly, and others that you here live can ask right now. So without further ado, Mr. Cardall, say hello.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me, Jacob. It's an incredible pleasure to be here. Thank you for asking me. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, we'll make sure we send you the Pulitzer Prize after the.
Well, let's hold the trophies just yet.
Really, I had the Golden Globes on the way already. I mean,
oh come on, I'm gonna have to get the fake tears out already, mate. I don't know how many people to thank.
Well. Yeah, it's all right. Fake tears are good for these kind of things. That's what increases ratings. It's fine. This is why you won these Golden Globes. Well, if you wouldn't mind, man, get us all started. I mean, I've watched a few interviews with you. I know you a little bit here, and I'm kind of give a sense of where you got started in doing the kind of work you're into now. But would you kind of give everybody else that's kind of new to you and might be tuning in, never heard of you before, like a good sense of where you come from, why you do what you do, what your message of intent is, we'll say.
Well, yeah, sure. I started out on the whole magic trail much like anybody else, you know, with the fascination with the David Blaine specials very early on, got me into the whole sleight of hand deal and whatnot. And that was the stuff I went out performing. But at home, you know, I obviously indulged my passion and obsession for the work of Sherlock Holmes, and found that the more and more performances I did, whether they were paid or for friends or whatever, I was just much more fascinated with the people, because people being so intricately different as they are, you can, you know, this for me the same effect can become a little tedious after performing it 30 times at 20 odd different tables. The card's back on top again. It's great, you know. That's awesome. But for me as the performer, I want to enjoy it too, and I was very worried that that might leak out in the performances that I was doing. So I figured much better approach would to be showing these people something that I'm truly passionate about, that I'm truly interested in, that truly gets my motor running, as it were. And thus my quest for these skills was born, and I've been trying, you know, sometimes in vain, sometimes not in vain, to make it as real. And I put it in inverted commas because that's a very broad topic to consider, as real feeling as possible, and much more about performing with people as opposed to performing to them or at them or for them. I'm performing with the people that, you know, and I always love the phrase that I heard a while back, that, you know, for coin magicians, they have their act walking around in people's pockets. For card magicians, there's nothing more better to do than with a borrowed deck. As far as I'm concerned, the people I meet are wearing and are quite a lot of my act. In the close-up stuff as well, it's different for the stage, and that's just really it. That's me. That's my message of intent. I like to try and get as close as I can to actually doing it.
And you know, I fully respect that, and it's funny because at first when I heard about your work, you know, I was like, well, is there, you know, how can you get as close to the real thing as possible? You know, I know about, you know, how reading system,
yeah,
you know, genuine intuition, but this stuff is like that on it's like that methodology broken down on steroids.
Yeah, the good thing that I like about it as well is when you pull a name or a hobby or an interest or something that they did earlier on in the day, it's incredible, but then you get to explain it as well and have it be just as incredible. And that for me is that extra little nuance, because were you to again explain a magic trick to the people, you've ruined it completely. Then, you know, they would go, oh, fair enough, neat. When
nice puzzle, yeah.
yeah. But when you, I don't know, when you talk about the pets they've got at home based on their demeanor and their attitude and the kind of job that they do, yeah, it's wow, that's interesting, and people lean in and they want to talk to you about it. Yeah, that's a real intriguing part of it for me, that I can explain what I do and it be just as impressive as doing it.
Yeah, and the thing is, you know, it's for the most part, there's, you know, when you do explain that, there's not a lot of pseudo explanation to it. I mean, there's some a little bit here and there, but not as in pseudo explanation as somewhat Darren pulls off. And Darren, I love Darren Brown, but he's one of the biggest liars on the planet.
See, I'm not saying anything because he's in this country, and God knows where the man might be lurking at the minute. You know.
Yeah. Well, he's small enough to hide under the stairs, from what I understand. So. We'll visit her real quick. Thank you.
No, you got to keep hydrated, my friend.
Yes. Smoothie King. It keeps you thirsty. Oh, that's not right. Never mind. Anyway, so Ben, you know, you just released the. I watched the Deductionist last night. By the way, it was fantastic.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
It's really great for anyone that's watching this hasn't seen it yet. Just search Ben's name, Ben Cardall, the Deductionist, and it's a full. Was an hour and a half long?
It's an hour and 8 minutes.
An hour and 8 minutes.
Hour and 8 minutes. Yeah. The that was just more of for it being the inaugural episodes kind of thing. We sort of went all out, but for the you know, the episodes that are going to follow, it's a strict 30 to 40 minute marker.
Oh, it was great though. You recreated the Sherlock car abduction scene.
Yeah,
I love it.
Thank you. That was it was such a weird thing to advertise. You know, we put out for volunteers ages ago on my Facebook wall, and they were like, "Yeah, sure, I'd love to. What do you want me to do?" And I'm like, "Kidnap me." I'm sorry. I didn't quite read that right. No, it's more of a voluntary kidnapping, and I'm going to get in your boot, and you're just basically going to drive wherever you want. Okay, weirdo.
Oh, the one, all their the reactions to it though were just amazing.
Yeah.
The one was great. Oh, Ben, how did you do that? How on earth? He just lost, man.
Yeah, she was very angry that I got it right. Yeah, for me, what was funniest was the lady in the middle with the short blonde hair that did it. And when I began to describe the journey she took, she was like, you know, one of these real awesome reactions you wanted. But then when I named the actual street, she was a bit more subdued and sort of went, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the climax. Like, I'm expecting this now. With like the 5 stages of coping.
That's it. Yeah. Denial at first. No.
Okay, maybe. No, again. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Real quick, I'm gonna do a plug. I have Sherlockian rationication, of course. Is that the right pronunciation?
I've never heard it pronounced, but to me, I call it ratiocination.
Ratiocination. I like it a lot more. Sounds so much more technical. Great books. I mean, this is a great book. The DVD's great. I actually, the other night, I don't think I even told you about this yet. There's a thing in here known as sugar theory. And I know Fraser Parker is also out there using this a lot because we talked about it the other day and how cool it was.
Excellent.
I was at a restaurant and I sugar theoried a group of 4 people and nailed every single one of them.
Yes,
it was just so great. They all just looked like,
that's brilliant.
No mention of what brilliant. I did.
Oh, you're frozen.
Oh man, it's just weird, the smallest bit of information like that. And when I told them why, they were like, "Wow, you're a very observant person." I'm like, I just read Ben Cardall's book, but anyway.
Just so you know, you froze my hand a little bit then.
Oh, it's okay. I thought we might have a freeze there.
Yeah.
Basically, sugar theory, the whole group of people told him exactly why I got got what I got, and they had lost their mind. It was great. So
Yes.
don't overlook the material in this book. There's Ben, you've got a ton of cool stuff in here. I've got a review for that in you already. So let's just continue on. But
let's carry on down the road. Yeah, it's the sugar theory was when I first wanted to try and really explore the whole doing it over text message thing in detail. And I started talking about it to different people, and they messaged me back and whatnot. And that was the main crux of the focal point of how I'd actually get whether they were lying or telling the truth was the sugar theory. And when I explained it afterwards, they would no, don't be silly.
Conspicuous question of all of them.
Yeah, it's because it's one of those things that is really weird and really obscure, and if you were to say it out loud, most people would be like, "What is this guy? Is he for real?" But
that's what I thought at first reading, and I'm like, I don't know, man, I don't know. Then of course, I'm the kind of guy that's just like, I'm skeptical in my own skepticism. So I'm like, all right, I'm not very smart, so I better go out and make sure that I'm absolutely correct. This is bullshit first. And I'm like, this is not pardon the cursing, man. This is not bullshit. It actually works really, really well.
Good to hear.
How did you go? I mean, obviously you do a lot. Like I said, you do a lot of reading. You do a lot of research. Yeah. You put a lot into this, and it shows with everything you do. How would someone like me? I mean, I've kind of done this before, and I've got a few interesting kind of ideas on this, but how would somebody that had no idea about the inner workings of induction, deduction, whatever you want to call it, how would they go about starting to look at some of these facts and start to gather information and start making more educated decisions and guesses?
Yeah. Well, first off, I'm very intimately aware of the parameters set down by Charles Sanders Peirce and his induction methods and his abductive methods and his deductive methods, and great. I'm not quibbling over detail. I don't really care what you call it as far as I'm concerned. Because to me, when you say deduction in nowadays, people know what you mean. It's more of a term that you'd find in the Urban Dictionary. People have an understanding that's idiosyncratic to themselves, whether it's completely detailed of the logical and philosophical approach to the induction or abduction or deduction that were the main three that are used in this kind of work. I know the methods that are that are there. It's like when you're learning martial arts. I don't really care what the punches are called, so long as I know which one to use in the right instance.
Yeah,
that's for me. And but the information is out in there. When I first started doing this, it was a very objective approach, and I read a lot of books on Occam's razor philosophy and a lot of the earlier, the Charles Sanders Peirce work, and right back to Aristotelian techniques and some of the Platonic methods, and I read all kinds of forensic science approaches, and even down to all the runs of How to Think Like Sherlock Holmes books, and I have them all. And what they teach you is a method for solving puzzles and how to attach, and how to break them down and how to figure them out and reason from them, which is brilliant, and that is information that you absolutely need. But you need to have the large quantity of information already in your head with which to reason from. Yeah. Say you come across an emblem on an obvious piece of work clothing. If you don't know what the emblem represents, then you have nothing with which to reason backwards from. And it's all about working on your memory for me. Memory is the most important part of this for me personally, because I can only talk about my approach to this. And I'm sure, you know, whoever else dabbles in this techniques, they have their own way to go about it as well. I tend to quote Bruce Lee a lot because his philosophies really, really speak to me. And one that I find about approaches to deduction and reading people is that he would say that myself and you, we could have the same suit made of the same material, but it will be of different sizes and fit us in different ways. So we can take very much the same starting point, but it's how we use it then that'll be most differently. So for me, working on my memory was a very, very important part of this. You know, as Aeschylus once said, you know, memory is knowledge. There's no knowledge without learning. There's no nothing without memory. We wouldn't remember how to do anything if we didn't have a fully functioning memory. And it's something so simple and so ridiculously overlooked by quite a lot of people that that was a main focal point for me. So for me, it would be having a firm grounding in memory work and memorizing instantly things that you see or things that you notice, sounds, smells, information, bits and pieces, and you start to build a groundwork and a framework. Then it becomes about storing. Once you've got it stored, you can then be faced with any problem, essentially, that you've got the information to use from, and then begin to deconstruct it from there, dependent upon what problems you're facing. Say, for example, you take the work approach again, and you've seen this emblem and a very obvious. You notice the hard-wearing shoes, the fully worn pockets, the black stains. I'm being hypothetical here, but you notice all this, and then as Holmes would say, the grand thing would be to be able to reason backwards from this. So you take up the whole amount of information, and what does that add up to? What does that point to? A thing that I talk about in my lectures is that it would sound weird that I could say to you, you could look at me and have a fair idea what my girlfriend's name is. Which, to say that to somebody, they'd be like, bugger off, you know, pull the other one. It's not possible. But then you start to look for emblems, and I'm purposely talking with my hands a little more now. You start to look for emblems of love. And then you notice that there is a tattoo here. You see it's of 2 letters. You know, I've spoken about my girlfriend. The first letter is C. So therefore, you've immediately got a bank of, what, 5, 6 names, maybe, as a large grand, just from looking at somebody. To go up to them, you've observed the information in front of you. You've reasoned from it what it could be, based on the emblem of this finger on the left hand. It's all about attacking problems this way, and it's the more and more you do it, the more easier it becomes. It's like press-ups. If you only did 2 a day, you wouldn't really feel the benefit of it. But so the more you utilize these skills, the greater you'll become at using them. Essentially, I have a tendency to ramble.
No. I'm in this right now. I've got notes.
So yeah, absolutely. For me personally, memory is one of the foundations of good deductive work, because you've got to be able to remember it to utilize it. That's simple. And then it becomes about the information that you put in your head. People will have different sort of things that they consider that would be better used in their area, because everything is culturally different. People are different from different areas. I'm sure there's a lot of things that go on in my area that wouldn't go on in France, say. I don't know, just off the top of my head. So there's going to be different things that you look at. For me, I tend to read everything. everything that I come across. I find that once I've got such a large array of information, I can pick and choose then what works from it. You know, then I can pick and choose the most valuable bits for me to store away and use for a later day.
Yeah, and I guess this is like the information collecting side of it. The next part of, I guess, would be just you got to go out and test it.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's pointless going cat person, non-smoker, ex-army, whatever, without confirming your beliefs. I've no problem with going up to people on the street and asking them questions. It's fine, and it's okay in this area. We've got a little skit in episode 2 coming up, where I've got a clipboard, and I'm going up to people and I'm telling them that I'm a psychology student, and I'm looking for people who are comfortable at just randomly talking about themselves, and I just ask them a quick couple of questions that I've made deductions on before. And so yeah, what I really wanted to show was the practice methods, and that's definitely one of them. It's pointless if you don't confirm. It's like any good scientific hypothesis. It stays a hypothesis until you confirm it. It doesn't move from science fiction almost to science fact,
Yeah, I completely agree. And I guess, like, for me, one of the ways I've kind of always practiced this, and my girlfriend sees a lot of this too. We'll go out and we'll just look at people, and I'll like, okay, this person's this and this and this. And then sometimes we'll stop them and go ask them, and just for fun, and see how spot on we were. I mean, it can be as simple as an interesting date theme like that. I mean, it's a lot of fun to practice this stuff.
Absolutely, it is. Absolutely. Like the amount of incredibly different people you'll meet just from 10 minutes of being sat on a park bench, and then you go up and talk to someone, you meet them, and then, wow, say you're right. Then that leads to more questions, possibly a performance. And it can snowball out of control for yourself. My dogs are shouting in the background now. But yeah, absolutely. You've got to confirm. You've got to confirm. I will often. My girlfriend just walked in through the door herself. I will often ask her. She can pose me the most difficult and random questions at times. It's brilliant, and it's great practice. We can go out somewhere, and somebody can come over and take our order at a table. Say 35, 40 minutes later, what was the waitress's name? Shit. And it's great for me to be able to have that in my life. It's brilliant. There's a little, again, I keep coming back to the show. There's a little clip of it that I put out, and we'll do this. I'll be like, describe a person that I don't know to me, and then I'll be able to tell them what pet they've got. Hopefully what name the pet is called, and it's great practice to sort of really fine tune the skills. They lay dormant otherwise if you don't keep your. I suppose your brain is like a muscle, isn't it? As they say, if the amount of exercise that you give it, the better it will work.
Now, for me, I'm exploring the memory kind of route right now, and my memory. Do you have? I know Moonwalking with Einstein's a very good one that's out right now. Do you recommend? Do you have any others you can recommend? Harry Lorraine's had some stuff.
I began with Harry Lorraine's. I would swear by the man's work. I think he's, for him to have maintained his career in that field for as long as what he has, must mean that the man knows what he's talking about. He must do. That's just common sense. But yeah, absolutely, I would recommend Harry Lorraine's work, and but as well as Dominic O'Brien. He's an English chap, 8 times world memory champion, and I especially like Moonwalking with Einstein because it's an insight into the not so much the techniques and using them, but developing the mindset to use them and to be able to practice and what that means, and the time and the effort that you have to put into doing it, but the fact that you can do it anywhere because it's your memory. You keep it in you can practice wherever, whenever you go. So yeah, absolutely. If you're starting, I go with Harry's and Dominic O'Brien's books for sure, man. There's so many techniques and so many things that you can interchange and make work for you. And maybe Dominic's doesn't work so well over here. Harry's got a brilliant idea. Oh, this is a good mnemonic over here from this book. It's brilliant. I tend to read again as much as possible. I got I'll take you to my bookcase and see if I can find it. There it is. But I don't know whether that's coming up, but for me, this was it's full of mnemonics and rooms and different ways to imagine and start and building a really comprehensive memory palace for those people that want to really store a lot of information in your head. And that is it's such a simple, direct approach. Like I say, it's one of those things that, look, if you want to do this, let's do this. Let's not go back into several 36-letter words that you're never going to understand, and you probably have to Google the meaning of, and just before you get to the actual methods. I mean, those books are brilliant for when you want to sit down and learn how and why things work, which I absolutely recommend that you do, because it's important to understand how the brain memorizes in order to successfully do it. But for me, but for being a book on techniques, that for me is one of the best, because it's just super direct. There's no beating around the bush at all. So yeah, it's Memory Palace Definitive by James Smith. And I tend to keep to those. And I know it's a really brief list, but their works are so varied. So an integral part of beginners memorization. But the good thing about them being beginners techniques is you can take them and really stretch them and use them for as long and as far as you want.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah, I mean, and there was in Harry Lorraine's page a minute memory book, there was the learning the alphabet. But just like somebody would name a number and you could tell them the letter, and it's such a quirky little piece that I do it in amongst my my Rain Man routine, and it's so exemplary of the way average Joe thinks of information, that you can only sort of get it if it's in a long rote piece. It's impossible to pick and choose and work with different bits of information at a different time. But when he sees it right in front of him, wow, maybe my brain can do this too. That kind of approach, I think, is brilliant. But so yeah, Dominic O'Brien, James Smith's book, and Harry Lorraine for sure.
What was the last Harry Lorraine one you said? It was memory per page?
The last Harry Lorraine one was the page a minute memory book.
Page a minute. I want to pick that one up.
It's brilliant. It really is. Because again, it's techniques from memorizing, the periodic table, for example, or there's playing card stuff in there, remembering people's names, and even something as simple. I mean, I'm sure we've all done it. Hi, nice to meet you. When you're going for a business meeting, say there's 3 people lined up. Hi, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. And then you sit there thinking, what was the first guy's name?
Yeah.
Oh, it's really awkward. But even and that's a situation that 90% of people have found themselves in at some point. The random person that, hi, Ben, and you're stuck going, hey.
Where do I know you from?
Yeah, you were really good from that place that I saw you in that time. And it's such a simple technique that you'll find that the more you do it, and then you gain that success from it, you're like, oh, that's good. That's simple. That's so easy. And I can do it anywhere because I don't have to carry anything. It's all upstairs, all of it.
Oh, yeah, and if you want to drill yourself, just grab your bills out of your wallet and look at serial numbers.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm bored. I pull out. I try and memorize serial numbers right now.
Yeah. I vaguely remember hearing a story that Harry Lorraine used to do. I think I might have heard it on a Banachek DVD somewhere. That he was doing like a bank night routine with a borrowed note, and because he'd only glimpsed the serial number, there was enough time misdirection in play that he could then do the bank night routine and then also reveal the serial number afterwards, just because you've had the time to memorize it. It's such a brilliant and cheeky little thing to do.
Oh yeah, and it's for me, what I found is it's about like it has the level of impact memory and memorize people's names, being able to recall. Oh, I have a weird thing where I don't know why I do this actually. I can memorize what people are wearing sometimes. For some reason, that's something really cool.
Yeah.
Because being able to recall people's names is an amazing skill on its own. It's up there with pendulum level, like, impressive feat.
I couldn't agree more, and it's one of those things that's a transferable skill as well. Talk about, what who doesn't like to hear the sound of their own name? Talk about a way to grease the wheels in a business meeting, or if you've got a customer that's come back, how nice to be able to greet them by name. It's such a small detail, but it's so powerful. Somebody's name, and it's so easy to do. And yeah, I completely agree. Memorizing people's names is brilliant. But as far as people memorizing what people wear as well, I think that's great, and it's something I actively practice as well, especially with and it serves no relevance for performance. Just merely a quirky thing that I do is if I ever notice people's socks. I remember what socks they wear, and oftentimes when you catch the guys, mostly your friends and whatnot, that have the same pair of socks on the next day, to be able to
okay, I got you.
Yeah, to be able to whip that one out the park, and then that's that spark of information then that you can begin to reason backwards from. Why would they have the same pair of socks on again? I know that they're a fairly fastidious person about cleaning, and blah, and it starts to tumble. These questions start to roll in your head, and that, again, that's just a hypothetical thing. But yeah, that's what I like to do with memory. People's socks, I think.
Forget the rest of it, just the song.
Yeah,
we've given the golden piece of information. Let's just close it down and get out of here.
We're done. Yeah, thanks for having me. People sucks.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Here's everybody.
No, like I say, it genuinely serves no relevance for performance, but that's just something I enjoy doing. It's a quirky thing.
Oh, it's fun though. I mean, it's just. I mean, if we're gonna try and develop these real abilities, we gotta have fun with them outside just performing too.
Absolutely, and like the first time I looked at when I see something that I want to try and do for real, I have to try and practice it as much and as much and as much and as much and as much as possible, So the first time I saw Darren getting slapped and counting the buttons, like, oh wow, that's incredible. So I got like about 40 packs of Smarties, which is I don't know if you have Smarties in America.
You do.
But, oh, brilliant. So I got about 40 tubes of Smarties, and I opened them, chucked them out. Okay, move on. Open them, chuck them out, and it was from doing that I discovered that there are between 29 and 31 Smarties in every single tube in England.
Really?
Yeah, I could pick up a random tube and tip them out, and I could name a number between 29 and 31 and be pretty correct on that one.
That's pretty cool. That's actually
it's from. I don't know if it's different in the States. I don't know if you have different sizes, but that's what I found over here. Just from doing it, just from exploring a technique, I found that that acts. The same with the sugar theory. Just from trying to guess how people. I mean, for those that don't know, the story went that I would go and visit my sister in the care home she works at, because I love talking to the savants in there. They're incredible people that can do incredible things. Real life Rain Man. I mean, who wouldn't like to talk to them? And so yeah, and being the lackey, the visitor, I get to make a lot of people cups of tea and coffee, and I would then. I did what I hate admitting, is I started guessing how they were doing, and then I found out that a lot of time I was guessing right. So I started thinking, I was like, what am I basing this on? Is it just a guess? Is there any information? So I did what any good nerd would do, is I started making notes, and then I think it was several hundred cups of tea and coffee later, I arrived at the sugar theory. But that's basically it. Through exploring things to do as real as possible, it leads me on different avenues, and then I explore that one, and then I explore this one, or there's something new here, and I go and explore that one. I think I've veered slightly from the memorization aspect.
Oh no, but that's great. That's great. Like I said, it's the it's understanding. It's good because your passion for this stuff just flows from you, and that's great. That's why it's like I'm not. That's why I'm just enjoying it. I'm like, yeah.
Thank you. But the one thing I did discover that with memory stuff, and I'm not saying that I discovered it like it's original. I never claim anything's original because I don't know. But I'm confidence. Confidence in your skills is such a big thing to have, and that's not to the point of arrogance. That's an entirely different thing. Confidence. The fact that I'm sure we've all had that time where we've peaked something, put it down, and then it's, oh God, what did I peak? How can I take another look? And it's just because you've spent those few seconds and second guessed yourself.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's so important to build confidence in the things that you're memorizing. And some of the games that I've written up for all kinds of different things and projects and whatnot, it builds confidence in your ability to develop this kind of spatial awareness in your head and take in a lot of information at a time. Like one of the games I advise people play a lot of the time when starting is I spy when you're not even in the room. So like when I'm out of my travels or whatnot, or I'm going to do a gig or a show or something, I've got half an hour, 45 minutes before I go on. I can text my girlfriend and we'll play I Spy. She'll be sat in the living room at home, and it's great because then I'm working around the mental picture of my own living room, and she can name anything from a battery that's on the side or a computer game she was playing that day. And if I haven't got the confidence in my own skills that my own living room is something that I wouldn't recognize, then I'm not going to be successful. But so you've got the first letter, what's in your living room that begins with the first letter, boom, reel them off. And it's such a fun game to play because you're forcing yourself to go into such detail, but from your own memories. And for me, that builds a lot of confidence because I know then if there's something I've memorized, it's in there, And if I get that moment of going, oh, there's the slight hesitation, I haven't taken the chance to memorize it as much as what I should have done. So then that highlights the information then that I need to go back over.
This has made me think about this because we were talking about what was last week or so.
Yeah.
Now I want to ask you about this, and I kind of want to ask you about this too. So we'll just try and transition into this because it's kind of fits in here. What is? You mentioned you have your pet's name routine, which you can see in once again the Deductionist, and looks great. How many pets' names do you have memorized again?
1,200.
1,200 pet names memorized.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that you say the number out loud, and you go 1,200, and you feel like this. But it's. I'm sure people who spend a lot of time in sleights and gambling moves could name you 1,200 different sleights and their provenance. I'm sure coin workers could tell you. I don't even know if there are, by the way, because I'm not a coin worker, but I'm sure they could tell you hundreds of gimmicks and who used them and what books they've come from. And to me, that's it's only as because it's
real
different. Because it's different, it's a different way of doing it. It's just something I enjoy. I'm sure people would scoff at that. There's no way you can do it. But so again, when I first started talking to people about that, I was like, I had to sit back and objectively go, okay, is there no way people can do it? So I looked at my book test first. And my older book test is a karaoke song, like a karaoke book list of songs that people can get from bars. And there's a bunch of other ways you can use it, but one of the ways is I've memorized every song that's in there, and that's 350 songs. And so I took a friend of mine who has no clue about memorization and no clue about memory palaces and mnemonics and all the rest of it. and he memorized the lot in 90 minutes and could move through it. Yeah, he could move through it immediately and instantly just through some of the things I was doing, because the music, again, I'll tell you about it, aren't bothered, as the music I split into genres. So there's 70s music, 80s music, 90s music, rock music, R&B music, rap music, film and TV music. And so what I did is I told him to imagine a journey in each of for each of the locations, but you do it from somewhere that you associate with the 70s.
Yeah.
Like we have a bar in our local town centre that only plays 70s music. So for me, that was a journey that I made in there. We have rock bars that only play rock music. My film and TV music list is set around my local cinema. And then every time I go into this place, I get a free top-up. I can physically walk around the journey that's in my head then. And I can better get a sense of the journey and better describe it in more detail, so it becomes much easier to memorize in that way. And then it's only like remembering 7.5 lists of information.
Wow.
Which is much easier. So if you start to think about it differently and really break it down, like it becomes much easier and much more simple to move around. Like one of the journeys I've got for the pet names is for the letter A. We have a local dogs home called the Abbey Brook Centre, and Abbey is got a giant A on the side. It's got a giant A right there on their own side. So if I want to go up and play with the dogs in the dogs home and pet them and feed them biscuits, I get a free top up of the names. It's these kind of things. I'm not saying that I will go driving place to place for 26, if I want 26 different top ups, but it's just remembering 26 different lists of information, which I'm sure any lawyer has had to do for who's sitting an exam. It's to me that it's really no different.
Wow.
Yeah, when you begin to break it down and find a much more rational approach for using the information, how can I engage more parts of my brain in remembering this type of thing? And I'll do that. I will actively do that if this is something that I want to be able to memorize and utilize. Hell yeah, I'm gonna put all the work into absolutely doing it.
Yeah.
It's like when
we should honestly.
Yeah, when I first started looking at creating my own memory palace that I was going to store a lot of information in, I'm looking at all these books and they're telling you to, connect journeys of rooms that in your house, and putting different kinds of encoded imagery around, and that was great. It worked for me for a couple of years, and then when I got to the point where I started throwing a lot of information down, I was like, I need a reframe. I need to rework it. So I changed my memory palace to my high school. So then if I wanted, any bits of science information, I wouldn't have to go wandering down a list of phonetic imagery. I could just be in the science building. If I wanted something, I could just be in the history building. If I wanted something to do with sports, I could just be in the sports department. It cuts down the amount of unnecessary memorizing that you have to do. And
it's logical connections, basically, is the best way to break it down and make it easily accessible.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, Bruce Lee, I'm going to quote him a lot the more you talk to me, is I forget the exact wording, so ironic that I'm talking about memory, but I forget the exact wording. He would say that a sculptor doesn't add clay to his mold, he chips away until the truth is revealed. Yes. And that's such a poignant thing for me. I'm not going to add unnecessary bits of information on that I'm going to have to wander through and cut down the time that I have to pull out this piece of information. I want to make it short. I want to make it concise and compact and as possible to the point. And that's in essence less stuff to remember then, because it's simplified.
Yeah, and that's what makes it more useful, is just being able to go, bing, there it is.
Exactly.
Very.
Thank you.
So Ben, I have a few. This is kind of a good place to transition off here. A clairvoyant on the Magic Cafe was curious on what are some things that you use, like how do you use some of these methods, these deductionary methods, or mentals in general, anything at all, conversationally, kind of when you're talking to people. I'm interested in that too. Actually.
Yeah, it's for me, it just depends on who I'm talking to. It depends on the conversation I'm having, and it's because for me the thing about deduction is, and again I'm using that blanket term, it can sit there. It can be this weapon that you don't have to use. It doesn't have to be brought up. It's not. I could do my entire act just with a bunch of effects that I know, which would be just as, bedazzling as the rest. But the fact that I've got this weapon sitting underneath the surface to go anytime is brilliant, and that plays into conversational pieces quite well, because I'm trying to think of the most recent time where the best one to pull up. Yeah, okay. And I'm texting my friend on the phone who lives in the lower half of the country. I'm in the middle half. And he was texting me. We're planning a phone call because he's going to hire a theatre for me to work in. But I said, I'm going to call you in about 15 minutes. And he said, don't bother. I won't be able to answer. To which my reply was, okay, please enjoy Avengers and don't tell me anything about it. But that opportunity wouldn't have presented itself had that conversation not come up, had he not been doing something that time. And it's the point of going for it. And let's say people worry about you being horribly wrong. Let's say he wasn't even going near a cinemas. He was going to I don't know what's so not the cinemas. He was going to visit his nan. Let's say he was going to visit his nana, and so he's, I'm not going to the cinemas, I'm going to visit my nana. Oh, I can pass that off then as more conversation, being, I thought you'd been the kind of super nerd you are, I thought you would have been in the pictures by now, you're slacking. And then that plays off as more conversation. So again, it can go right back underneath the surface again, unnoticed. It didn't, but that's it. For me, it's about picking your moments and seizing them, and then just not worrying about them. Because the more I worry about them, then the more I'm going to panic, the more I'm not going to be able to think clearly, and then the more it's just going to fail and sink and dive, and they're going to be obvious and misses. There's times like when I'm doing the 3 truths and a lie piece, and I'll get it wrong. If I sit there and go, oh, well, that was wrong, and accentuate it, then it becomes this moment where this whole this whole deductive exploit hasn't worked. But if I keep the conversation flowing as, oh, that's interesting, then you really showed more signs of on number 2 at the initial rate, which would tell me this about you. Okay, you should then, hopefully, if we're getting on track, then you should be perfect for this next effect. Let's try this then. And I've just carried the train going. I've carried the train going. And it just keeps the conversation going. The more I talk about it, the better it is. And then because it's a conversation, and because I'm throwing deductions in when/if they hit, I can take all the time in the world to soak that moment up. Because again, it's part of the conversation.
And really it's a powerful moment when you just thwack someone with something like that. And
yeah,
it's like you said, when it misses, you just wash it away. No one ever pays attention to it.
Exactly. There was a moment a couple of years ago, and I only remember this moment because I wrote it up. As I'm working away and I'm at the tables and whatnot, and I remember on my way in, because fortuitously I had to walk past the car to get in. There was only 5 cars on the car park, 3 of which were sports cars, and 2 were big enough to fit a family in. And it's for a bunch of like business execs in one of the casinos I was working at. And we're at the tables, he's having his meal, and he pulled out his wallet. So and he got a picture of his family right there that I could see. And I'm admitted the effect. The effect didn't stop rolling. It's not like I'm going, hey, you pick a card. Okay, then we've seen that. We carry on with it. I'm not accentuating. I just noticed it, stored it away. So now in my head, there's 2 cars that can fit a family in. I think it was a Land Rover and some Vauxhall car. Either way, they were big enough to fit a family in. And I'm talking to him, and I'm doing this basic reading thing, which is one of the lead-ins to one of the effects I was using. And then just offhanded, I went, so your Land Rover, yeah, is that one something that drives perfectly? Is and he's talking to his wife, and at the time he's enjoying the effect, and he just stopped and turned, and I was, what's wrong? He's like, how the I'm not going to swear, but how the in hell did you know did you know I drove a Land Rover? I was just one of those things, isn't it? And just carried on with the effect. And because it was part of this conversational piece, everyone's having a conversation. He could have just gone, I don't drive a Land Rover. Oh, okay, you look like the type that would have drove a Land Rover. That's fair enough. So what car do you drive? And it's a moment that just it wouldn't have happened should I missed. To me, this type of thing is only a win-win, or a win or noticed. Because they're not. So yeah, conversational pieces, absolutely. You've if you go in and with the type of head on, that you're going to fall foul of confirmation bias. If you go in expecting things to be a certain way and expecting this stereotype of person to be this type of way, then you're going to miss a lot of the other, perfectly obvious points that you wouldn't have picked up on otherwise. And again, it's like Bruce said in Enter the Dragon, it's like a finger pointing away to the moon. Don't concentrate on the finger, or you will miss all that heavenly glory.
Yep.
Which is true. And again, it's something I quote of in my books. There's a picture of this this biker chap. And I purposely cut the photo at the arms, and he's looking down. He's big guy, big bushy beard, and there's people in the background looking on. And for those people who might have a certain opinion of what bikers might be, they might see this photo as a big guy, menacing over something, and the people in the background looking on, not wanting to get involved. When I show you the whole of the picture, he's just reaching down to pick up his son, because his son's like this, arms outstretched, like.
Oh.
Yeah, and then that's it's just one of those things. It's just a random photo that I picked out, and I started showing it to people, and then they had that whole confirmation approach because they were expecting this type of, this type of scenario because of this type of guy that they had. So if you go into these situations with, particularly the conversational ones, with a confirmation bias head on, you won't be able to move smoothly around it, because things that they say and do will trip you up. There'll be much more thoughts rolling through your head. Better to be like water, my friend.
Yes.
If you put water in the bottle, it becomes the bottle. If you put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. If you're receptive to what's shown to you, it's a much better situation with which to reason from and deduce from. Yeah, there we go.
Exactly, and I think that's where a lot of people look at, like for example, the standard definition of cold reading. They look at that as say a statement that fits everybody. That's not really what cold reading is.
No. That's people who have read one or two books and seen a Darren Brown show. Yep.
And the sad thing is, some of those people are even prominent performers. Oh man.
Yeah, but cold reading can be an incredible skill to have. Incredible skill to have. I know there's many times I've cold read my way out of many a tight situation that I'm going to be in, and it's only thanks to the lessons particularly in Ian Rowland's book. There's only thanks to the lessons that I've learned in there that I was able to get out of them.
Yeah, it's okay. Hi, Ian. By the way, if you're watching, we all love you.
Absolutely. I've never met the man, but totally, I love his work.
Yeah, he's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Legend.
So continuing on that, what Clairvoyant also want to know, what are some of the inner qualities that you believe are the easiest to peg in somebody just reading?
When I set about purposefully reading someone, I start with the most outstanding quality, and I don't mean outstanding as in wow, you're outstanding. I mean as something that literally stands out the most, because that's 9 times out of 10 going to be the thing that their personality has put the most effort into.
Right.
Yeah, if somebody is walking down the street, and I'm sure we've all seen them in our town, and they've got big multicolored dreadlocks in, and it's all got tons of little addendums to it and attributes. It's fair to say that that is going to be a pretty integral part of the personality and who they are. So, excuse me, outstanding qualities definitely for me are for something that I will voluntarily talk about to anybody. You know, even random passers-by. When I'm out practicing and confirming my work, I'll point out this, and then I'll go and ask them. And for me, it's like having a gold mine of certainty there. There's going to be something, even if which I've never had, but even if it's a very small part, there's guaranteed something there because it stands out in a public domain. Right. Even if they're an extrovert, it stands out. If they're an introvert and it stands out, it's much more particular about them. So yeah, definitely standout features, and physicality, their body type speaks a lot. And I get told that I'm a particularly chunky fellow, well built and such. That's indicative of a lot of my life, because I have to take the time to look this way. I have to be diligent enough to, be able to do the things that I do physically. That takes up a lot of time and a lot of interest. Diligence speaks a lot about personality readings, so and that's just in body type as well. I take things like tattoos. Tattoos speak a lot, about a person, because it's a permanent thing that they've had engraved upon their skin. Even if they volunteer that it doesn't mean anything, then they volunteered a piece of information about themselves with which you can read from. They're the type of person that will have a tattoo because it looks cool, or just because they wanted a tattoo, or if you can tell by the work that they got it done when they were drunk. This is all obvious bits and pieces that stick out like a sore thumb, and particularly fastidious cleaners are very, very easy to spot for me, because it's either all in the skin on the hands or the way they present themselves. Right. And it boils back down to an outstanding feature about themselves. It could be anything, because again, people are so infinitely different. My girlfriend, when you meet her, she's a nose piercing. She wears a lot of band t-shirts. She has beautiful dyed red hair. These are all things that stand out and speak to a part of her personality that you could see without even talking to her. These are deductions you could make that are based on that. Yeah. So I think the blanket term then would be the outstanding characteristic, whatever that may be. But one of the other things as well that you won't know until you actually talk to the person is accents. Accents, to me, speak volumes, the way a person talks. Like if you take my voice, for example, I'm told that I'm quite well spoken, quite received in the way I talk, which is very different to my local town. If I talk to you how some of the locals speak, they would walk up to you and say, "Hey, Doc, how at? All right," and you'd be like, "Whoa,
what?"
Exactly.
What did you just call me?
that was basically me saying, "Hello, my friend. How are you?" that was in our local slang to Stoke, and there's hundreds and hundreds of people that talk this way. You meet somebody that talks this way, or in even a different regional dialect to that particular neck of the woods, this would tell you a story. Yeah, the blends of accents, different names and titles. I know that in the way that somebody might say mate or dude or my friend. A lot of the people from around here will call each other duck, which is something that's like hey up duck. That's like duck, like a duck, like the
wow,
like the duck. Which again, nobody really knows where it come from, but that's what happens.
Yeah.
And if you pick up on these little words that come out, that would again tell you a story, and it's all based on their accent and the way they speak. Mine comes from the fact that I was trained as an actor, and it's just sort of stuck.
Yeah.
It doesn't really go away. But yeah, so for me, outstanding characteristics in all their form and splendor, and people's voices will tell you so much in like the first couple of minutes that you speak to them, and from then you can sort of hone your virtual magnifying glasses in on all the little details from then on after that. And it's not like you have to walk around with Terminator eyes on, observing and storing everything away like some kind of ridiculous robot. If you walk around receptive, just relaxed, the more relaxed you are, the more receptive you are to movement.
Yeah.
Be water, my friend. Be water.
He says as he drinks the giant thing of water.
It's a plug.
Cannibal.
That's it. I put it into the bottle. Now I want to put it into my face.
Yes. And knowing is the power.
Yes.
Thank you, G.I. Joe.
G.I. Joe. Sorry. We're digressing slightly.
It's all right. I don't know. It's pretty intellectual stuff we're getting into right now.
Yeah, this is true.
Some pretty big philosophical stuff.
Boys' cartoons is where it's at, mate. It's fabulous. I use my son as an excuse to watch them.
Yeah, no, you don't need no excuse. Well, Ben, yeah. We've gone over so much. We've answered a lot of questions here. What's next for you, man? Let's just real quick. So what is the next big thing you're looking to tackle?
Yeah, I'm currently working on episode 2 at the minute. I literally just before we started this got back in from checking out some locations to use. Nice. And yeah, I've finally found a day that I could sit down and finish off the final 2 pieces from the original deduction experiment, because I'm going to start a new one. And nice. Yeah, the frame. I'll tell you about the framework for it. The idea I have is that I'm going to ask just 5 people. That's all I want is 5 people, and they can volunteer their time. And if they want to take part, they must have a PayPal account, because I'm going to send them £10 of my own Earth money for them to buy me a present, wrap it up, and send it back to me, so that I want to see if I can deduce the present that is inside of the wrapper before I open it.
Nice.
Yeah, that's the idea with it. Yeah, so that's really what I'm focusing on at the minute is episode 2 and this new deduction experiment. The book I was working on before, Speed Deduction, is currently with Michael Murray at the minute, and that'll be that's ages away, but that's after everything else is done currently, and so yeah, that's taking up in besides shows and work and research and stuff as well, which is the lifelong pursuit anyway. But yeah, that's taking up a lot of my time.
Well, it sounds like you got a lot on your plate then, man. But we're all enjoying it so far.
Excellent. I'm happy to hear that. Thank you.
Come to prominence, man.
Thank you. Really thank you.
Well, I'll tell you what. We've reached about the hour mark here. Is there any closing thoughts or anything you had, Ben?
Yeah. I thank you for all the support that everyone has given me so far. I'm genuinely It's not very often I'm lost for words, but genuinely, it's awesome to think that this hairy little weirdo from England could be spoken about like this, and it's such a touching thing to have so many people interested in what rolls around inside my head. And yeah, so thank you, even to the people that hate what I do but are willing to talk to me about it. As long as it's constructive, brilliant. You know, I love meeting and talking to new people. So genuinely, thank you to everyone that supported the things that I do, and that's really all I'd want to say, because I wouldn't be talking to you now without the support of so many people. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, I'm sure it's all of our pleasure, Ben. It's been great, man.
Thanks, man. Thank you for having me.
No problem. I'm sure we'll have you. I'm sure we'll have you back eventually here soon.
Yeah, I'd love to. Let's carry on the debate.
The adventures of the Deductionist.
Yeah, let's do that. That'd be fun.
Same bat time, same bat place, people. Well, I'll tell you what. We'll go ahead and close this off and get back to our normal, bizarre lives that we both tend to. We both have girlfriends we have to go entertain for a while. So
yes,
that is why this is why you must learn deduction.
Yes,
girls love deduction. Everybody,
exactly. To know what is truly on your partner's mind without having to ask.
Yeah. Just ask Peter Turner too.
I'm sure that man could tell you what was on anyone's mind. Seriously, the dude is a legend, and I'll make special recognition of Peter. Not that my name is anything to go by, but seriously, the chat I had with Peter Turner the other day is wow. The man is given me so much gold to think about, and thank you, mate. If you're watching, thank you.
One of the best guys in mentals and magic in the world in general.
I could not agree more.
So, well, on that note, everybody, this is Jacob. This is Jacob signing off here, and we will catch you here in a few more weeks for another fun episode of Mystery Arts Inc. Thank you all very much. Have a great night.
Thanks, guys. Bye.